Hey everybody, I'm Anna Hayes and thanks for joining me today. Remember being a kid? I know some of us have a lot farther to go back than others, but I remember when I was a kid, I was pretty much not afraid of anything. I would always love to try something new, except maybe food. I was kind of a picky eater. But it's funny how we change, from being not afraid and, making sure that we reach that counter for those cookies or maybe even the top of the refrigerator, depending on your mother. But still, we had more resourcefulness, tenacity, and as we got older, we started listening to all the no you can'ts and you shouldn't and well that's not going to work. So what did that do to us? Kind of put us in a fear mode, didn't it? One thing I was always really concerned about when my kids were little was people telling them they couldn't do something. And more my son than my daughter was a daredevil like me. He was going to do anything, try anything. My daughter was up until she was about 4 years old. And I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden she was afraid of everything. I don't know who or what she listened to. Don't know what got into her head, but she started being afraid. Where she used to just jump in the pool all the time, not even thinking. I mean, even as a 2-year-old, she'd just jump right in the pool, in the deep end, and pop up laughing. But something happened when she was 4, and I have no idea what it is. Somebody said something, somebody scared her somehow, but it became a fear that was really horrifying for a long time, because when I put my kids into swim school, I wanted to make sure they were strong swimmers because we liked being out on the water. My daughter refused to get in the pool. We never really know what it is that turns us into fear mode. Maybe it's something we saw on TV. Maybe it's something that someone said or we overheard or we witnessed. My point being here is that we have an incredible brain. But one thing that's not incredible about it is when we hear, see, witness some kind of trauma, it seems to put this permanent rut in our memory that comes up 20, 30, 40, 50 years later and scares you into either doing something stupid or not doing what you need to do. Oftentimes we don't even remember what that fear was that deeply rooted itself in our brain. It's something that you have to actively look for. So if you're afraid of something, actively look for where that fear came from. For many, many years, I was scared to death to drive over a bridge. And I lived around the Bay Area, so driving over a bridge was like a daily occurrence. But I would hold my breath and white-knuckled on that steering wheel all the way across that bridge, always making sure I was in the middle lane so I wasn't close to either side of the edge. I have no idea why that fear came up, when it came up, or what it was about. And just as suddenly as it came, about maybe 20 years later, it just went away. Just stopped. All of a sudden I wasn't afraid to drive over the bridge anymore. I don't know what I did or didn't do that changed that belief in my head, but I never really figured out where it came from. The only thing I could even come close to was remembering a movie I saw as a child where this woman drove off of a bridge with her daughter. That's the only thing I can think of. It was a TV show. Plain and simple. It could be something that you don't even know. So when a fear is stopping you from doing something that you really need to do, or if a fear is pushing you to do something that you know you are going to regret, you need to take the time to stop for a few minutes and look at that fear and find out where it's coming from. And then you need to release it. It was funny because that fear of driving over the bridge, I didn't really actively work on that, but it was something that clicked. My husband had just passed away. My mom was in the hospital in San Francisco fighting for her life. And I had to drive that bridge. Actually, I had to drive over 2 major bridges twice a day to go see my mom and make sure that everything was going okay. I think my grief in losing my husband put things in a different perspective for me. And the thought of losing my mom at that point, just a couple of months later, put things in a very different perspective for me. And all of a sudden, the only fear I had at that point was losing my mom. And that bridge can kiss my lily white because it was more important for me to be there with my mom. So in looking at things that are more important, oftentimes we can actually relieve some of those fears without actually facing the fear itself. I guess you could say I faced the fear every time I drove over that bridge, but for many years it just became worse and worse and worse. The more I faced it, the worse it got. So there are subtle things that you can do without facing your fears. Find out where the fear is coming from. Is it something that's actively going to hurt you right now? Probably not. Now, when I was a kid, I used to jump off the roof of the house. One day I got hurt, sprained my ankle. I didn't jump off the house anymore. Probably wouldn't do that today. But there's places that we need to go and people that we need to see and things that we need to be involved with and part of just because of life. And if you have a fear stopping you, you need to find it. Find it, put it in a little bubble in your hand, and blow it to the wind. So I hope this helps you out a little bit. I hope you all have a great day. And talk to you soon. Bye.